some of the responses from the Afro-Swedish communities as well as the African-American communities. Patricia Hill Collins, for example, came out and spoke vehemently against this image, was of course this notion of putting black bodies on display as spectacle again. Yet again, we have this use of one of the most egregious forms of exploitation, examples of exploitation, Sarah Hartman, putting her on display once again. And on top of that, using this particular body type as representative of all sort of African female body types, right? Because this is supposed to be a piece about genital cutting, right? Well, it's clear that the groups of people that practice genital cutting don't all look like this, right? So this is in many ways a stereotypical body shape. It's also interesting to point out that the artist, who is an Afro-Swedish man, is in blackface. So this ought to bring up or harken back to sort of blackface minstrelsy. Even though I'm not implying that he was aware of this, but he painted his face black. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Oh, let me before I go on. Sorry. This is the actual performance of the piece. This is the Minister of Culture here, the Swedish Minister of Culture. You can see that everybody's laughing, and it is an audience of primarily white men and women. And this is what was objected to. Okay. It's pretty disturbing. I want to make a point quickly about the blackface, because I'm going to return to it. Some of you may be familiar with this practice in the late 19th, early 20th centuries of white men primarily painting their faces black, highlighting their lips with red, in order as a form of entertainment, in order to make fun of Afro-European, African-American peoples. It was a sort of comic act. Right, that of course perpetuated certain stereotypes about black men primarily. Again, I'm not suggesting that the artist had this in mind, right, but it is a vestige of that practice. Okay, so here I have the other image is hard to see. Some of you will recognize the image on the right. That's from Sue Koh's book. Cruel, right? Again, this is only my attempt just for you to get inside my head a little bit in terms of how I understood this particular image when I saw it for the first time. And that is, it's reminiscent of the way we prepare non-animal bodies for slaughter or for use in other capacities here. And we have a picture on the right of the practice of mulesing, which is the cutting away of the fatty flesh between the legs of sheep in order to ultimately prevent them from blowfly infection. This is done without anesthesia, and if you can see, it's hard to see in the picture, but people are using loppers to cut this flesh off of the animals. So these are some of the images that was recalled for me when I saw this particular image. It may be somewhat facile to make the point, but it seems to me that we are able to consume black female bodies, human bodies in general, even in effigy, because we have these perceptions of the consumption of non-human animal bodies. Right? And of course, the red inside cake is reminiscent of blood. Right? This particular image. This particular image, I think, is one of the most disturbingly powerful images of this particular presentation. This is an ad for American Apparel. Once again, we see a woman in blackface. I don't know if this woman is of African descent or if she's a white woman, but she's definitely painted in black. Right, that dark skin, the red lips are highlighted. Once again, recall this particular poster, this advertisement really for blackface minstrelsy. But if you read the caption, right, sweeter than candy, better than cake. This is the caption here. So what's interesting in the paper previous was the reference to Avery's Harper, who talks about the kinds of food that we consume, right, and what that and how that is colonizes our own bodies. And I think that this is part of what we see happening here, right? This is the bodies of I mean, this is using the consumption of cake and candy, right, as representative of this woman's body. Now, cake and candy, obviously, when people read that, don't necessarily recall the bodies of animals, but really that's not the point. Even though we know that, by the way, that cake and candy often contain animal products, the idea here is the consumption of this woman's body, right? And we are supposed to be consuming her, eating her, right, like we would candy and cake, and we would enjoy that even more than eating candy and cake. A couple of other examples of the use of blackface to sell products. This is a licorice that's produced in Finland. This packaging is no longer used, but they stopped using this in 2007. Right? So this is a very recent practice. The next image, this one, Black Man cookies. This is still produced today. This is a biscuit and milk product, chocolate, right? That harkens back, by the way, to, I don't know if some of you remember or have recalled in your research or found in your research, the little licorice candies called Miggy Babies, right? But this is a Turkish company, makes these, still sold throughout Romania and Turkey. Right? So you still see, again, this producing of food products, black bodies and effigy in the context of food products that are consumed and eaten. Okay. I want to end really with this particular image. I want to end with taxonomy again. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this image or not, but this is an entomologist, Brian Lessard, who discovered a new horsefly with a golden abdomen and has called it, in honor of Beyonce, the Beyonce fly. Okay? So here again, we have an image. And I will say that I'm rethinking this a little bit in light of a presentation that I attended yesterday. But the way I've understood this until then is, here we have an African American performer who is disassembled, who is honored, or really a part of her body is honored through the naming of a horse fly. Right? And this is problematic in a number of ways. Right? Some of the outcry to this has been, how can you compare a human being to a fly? And of course, this has a lot to do with the way we perceive flies, right? And the way we perceive horse flies, particularly, right? They carry disease, they bite, they are dirty, and so on. So the response is equally as problematic. But here we have again the interconnection, I think, of oppressions, of the use of non-human animal bodies and of African American bodies, black female bodies, particularly. All right, just to come back and coming to the end here. Just to recall this again, we see reflected in the oppression of non-human animal bodies, the oppression and exploitation of human animal bodies. In our case study here, it is black female bodies, right? But this can be extended out, I think.